Hello and a warm welcome to the next in our series of short videos which are aimed at helping practice managers in their day-to-day jobs. Those who don't know me, my name's Gerry and I'm a practice management consultant with FPM Group, part of which is Thornfields Training. And the topic for today's short video clip is medicines management. So the first question that may prompt in your mind is, what is medicines management? Well, for me, medicines management is a combination of some control mechanisms and some protocols that means that practices in particular and primary care in general enjoy cost-effective prescribing. And two other elements I throw in there. One is that effective medicines management means that patients understand the importance of being compliant with their medication. And the last, but probably the most important ingredient, is that a robust medicines management system reassures or confirms or guarantees that the patient will be kept safe in terms of their prescribed medication. So that's the backdrop, the context. How does this fit with CQC? Well, obviously, as you know, safe is a key ingredient. It is, in fact, one of the 5 key questions. So a practice that can evidence that it delivers good medicines management will evidence that it's behaving as a safe practice. But also, a consequence of doing that, it will also evidence the other 4 key indicators: that it is responsive, that it is caring, that it is well led, and that it is effective. So it helps a practice evidence that it is fully compliant with certain elements of the CQC inspection regime. So as always, for FPM and Thornfields have tried to do the legwork on behalf of practice managers. So we've read a number of CQC inspection reports, and what we tried to do is identify some best practice principles from the reports that we've read. So boil that down to 7 top tips, which I'll share with you today. So 1 for each day of the week, and I'll go through them one by one now. The first one is the management of controlled drugs, or CDs as they're known. So we all know that there are some horrendous CDs out there. And in particular, I'm thinking of Agadoo, which is a particularly dangerous CD and has some very unfortunate side effects if taken after copious quantities of alcohol. So that being put to one side, let's refocus back on controlled drugs as we mean in this setting. So what are the important ingredients in how a practice manages its controlled drugs? Well, there's 3 elements. 1, there should be a holistic standing operating procedure. So that's ingredient number 1. Ingredient number 2 is that once that has been established, it must be cascaded amongst all the team. So all the team are trained in how to apply that standard operating procedure. And third, and again probably most importantly, each member of the team needs to know how to blow the whistle, how to raise concerns if they've got any issues with anyone's behaviour towards their management of controlled drugs. Number 2 is the management of discharge, hospital discharge letters. Obviously, hospital discharge letters can be a rich source of information regarding patient medication. So again, this needs to be systemised within the practice. There needs to be a robust approach, with letters being reviewed by an independent prescriber before any changes are made to any individual's medical record. So once again, it's about systems and the consistent application of that system. We're already up to number 3. And number 3 for us is clinical audits. So clinical audits don't only evidence that a practice is committed to continuous improvement, but it also evidences and can contribute to GP's revalidation. So what needs to be in place to comply with best practice around clinical audits? Well, once again, there are 3 things. Firstly, each clinical audit needs to be owned So someone needs to take the lead in conducting that audit. The audit needs to be time bound. And last again, and again, probably most importantly again, the emphasis is on the audit cycle. So one audit doesn't take place in isolation, but anything highlighted by the initial audit needs to be followed up by a second audit to evidence that the change has been implemented and any needed improvement has happened. So there's clinical audits. Number 4 is emergency drugs. So again, a balance has to be struck here between the availability of emergency drugs and the need for them to be controlled. In arriving at this balance, a practice should conduct a risk assessment, and that risk assessment should be around how the practice could respond immediately if any person in the practice became seriously ill. And factors it needs to consider in that risk assessment are factors such as the practice location, ambulance response time, and also access to pharmacy services. So that's number 4, emergency drugs. Number 5 in our top tips is medicine safety alerts. Again, it is about a system being in place and awareness of that system. So the practice should have a mechanism for raising awareness when it receives any alerts regarding medication. That system should then be enacted, so when an alert is received, that information needs to be cascaded to those people who need to know within the practice team. But it's not just about information giving, it's also about reacting appropriately. So individuals being made aware is the next stage in the process, and that virtuous circle is completed by those individuals taking the appropriate action to follow through any alert that they've been made aware of. So our number 6 top tip is repeat prescribing. And as with the others, this is founded on a practice having a robust policy regarding repeat prescribing. The policy by itself does nothing, so a practice needs to ensure it adheres to that policy and that a number of staff are designated and being trained in the delivery of that policy. And our hope is that implicit in that policy there would be a number of protocols, and we've identified again 3 that we think are sufficiently important to be highlighted in this way. So there should be a protocol regarding repeat requests for controlled drugs. There should be a protocol regarding the repeat prescription of any drug that needs to be monitored. And last but again not least, there should be a protocol regarding how patients are managed who fail to attend for medication reviews. So we're actually on to tip number 7, and this is an all-embracing tip that applies to many areas of a practice operation. The Care Quality Commission are keen for practices to be learning organisations. They appreciate that most organisations which are based on people will occasionally make a mistake. But the Care Quality Commission wants us to learn from those mistakes. And this is nowhere more important than it is in the management of medication. So, are safety issues identified in how medication is managed within your practice? Do you have a recording mechanism for capturing not only real incidents but near misses, so that you can then take some action to stop those near misses turning into actual incidents? Recording of the information isn't an end in itself. The next step in the process should be to have some kind of review mechanism which identifies any consistent themes which can then be acted upon. The next point is that action is taken. That recording actually does nothing. It's the action in response to identified themes and mistakes being recorded. It's the action that's the important stuff. And lastly, is evidence recorded that the process is known amongst the team and that it is enacted amongst the team and it does make a real difference. So there are our 7 top tips. I hope they are of some use, but that brings to an end this particular video. I hope you'll join me again at some point in the future, but for now, it's bye.